hopefully they can do a better job maintaining my health and blah blah blah. Like, I had to jab them just a little bit. It really delighted me. Hi guys. Okay, so I'm gonna give you 2 updates. So the first one is I changed my primary. There's another video and I talk about like firing a doctor and hiring new doctors and all that good stuff. And it was all about, you know, you have to trust the people that are over your care. It's a huge big deal what they are doing for you and with you. And if you don't trust the people that you are putting that faith into, that's a really, really hard spot to find yourself in. And I have had problems with my primary for probably a couple years. But with so much health stuff kind of like up in the air, I didn't feel like I was in a good spot to be able to change my primary. I mean, I could have at any time, but without having a huge bulk of the answers, I felt like I was just going from an unknown crappy situation to an unknown potentially crappy situation, and that didn't do it for me. So when we finally got most of my stuff kind of straightened out and figured out and diagnosed and blah blah blah, I decided probably 6 months ago that I wanted to change my primary, like, into my health system. And so it's one less step, because now my primary will have access to all of my records from all my subspecialties at that health system. Because I work with 2 other health systems too, for neuro-ophthalmology and cardiology. But everything else is at this health system. So anyway, so I think it was rheumatology, referred me to internal medicine so I could get a new primary. So I've had this appointment on my calendar forever. And it took this long for me to be able to get in to be seen as a new patient. Oh, and I wanted a chick, so I have a chick. And, you know, it's kind of hard being a complete unknown, especially when you're going to trust them with this kind of thing. I mean, like, subspecialties are one thing, but like my primary, I need my primary to be like a big cheerleader for me, you know. And somebody with the same kind of like rah-rah go team and like positive attitude that I have. And I need somebody that I can actually talk to again and trust with all my things. And anyways, so the appointment was today. I can't tell you how many times over the past 6 months that I have thought about canceling it and just sticking with the one that I have. I love my other primary staff. They all know me. It was a very personal office when I went there. I knew all of the lab girls. I knew all of the nurses. I could see any of the other doctors there. And it's super convenient to where I'm located. It's not like an hour-and-a-half drive like the new one is. But it came down to the fact that anything that happened, if I felt bad and I needed to go to the doctor, I didn't want to go because I had to deal with my primary. That was it. That was the deciding factor. Like, I have enough wrong, I guess, that if I need help, I need somebody that I can trust. I don't need to be thinking, oh my god, I'm just gonna suck it up and, you know, take stuff over the counter and whatever to get better just so I don't have to go to the doctor. I can't have that mental thought process anymore. So anyway, so I kept the appointment. it was in one of the buildings that I'm in for like several other things. Dermatology, surgical dermatology, allergy, and immunology. It's all in the same. Any of my big, huge, like, gastric emptying studies, they're all done in the same building. Like, I know the building really well. Oh, man. Hiccups and sneezes. Ouch. Don't feel good with a healing feeding tube. Man. Ow. Lordy. Lordy. Everything's trying to seize up on that side. Okay. So, I went to the place and I got signed in. Very efficient. So I waited in the waiting room, and they actually do general internal medicine, they do pediatrics, and they do geriatrics all in the same space. So it was lots of different people, which was really cool. And I sat there maybe, I honestly should have paid more attention, but I didn't. I think it was maybe 15 minutes or something in the waiting room. It wasn't too shabby. And so a nurse called me. She was so nice. And so we chit-chatted, and she did the whole vitals thing and asked some questions based off of my paperwork. Excuse me. And all that good stuff. So we did all that. And it was funny. I had the blood pressure cuff on and the O2 sensor, but she didn't turn it on. It was a little weird, like that the blood pressure thing was on for so long before she actually turned it on. And so I didn't even know that the O2 or the pulse ox was on either, until all of a sudden she was like, do you normally have a really fast heart rate? And so I kind of laughed, and I was like, yeah. I said my resting of best rest heart rate, I said, is normally still over 100. I said normally, sometimes I can get it to like 90, but I said it's normally over 100 just at rest. And she was like, yeah. She's like, it's like 109 and you're just sitting there. And I was like, oh yeah. And she was like, well, what does it come from? And I was like, POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And she was like, oh, I've heard of that. So anyways, it was just kind of funny. And so she went through all my meds and made sure it was right and blah, 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 blah. And then I waited for a few more minutes, and then so my new doctor came in, and she's tiny, and she's like little bitty, like around, and she is, I don't know what kind of Asian nationality, but some type of Asian nationality. And she was smiley, and she introduced herself, and she shook my hand, and she didn't have like a limp noodle handshake, which was super awesome. And so we like plowed into all of my stuff, and so I was there for 2 hours. And we went over all the things and all my meds and what they're for and which meds she'll have to refill for me, because I've only got 3 that are from my primary. And we talked about why I decided to get a new primary, and it was so sweet. And she was like, I so apologize that you had to deal with any of that, like from any other doctor. And I was like, please. I said it took me 23 or 24 doctors to actually, you know, find somebody that knew about the EDS and the POTS and all that stuff. And I was like, she's like, you have been through it. And I was like, yes, I have. And so we were talking about just kind of everything, and you know that 95% of this game for me is mental and 5% of it is physical. So as long as I can get my head in, you know, wrapped around and, you know, able to process all the crappy stuff, and I was like, I can tolerate it, you know, it all works out. I really liked her. I really liked her. And she took a look at the tube and made sure that everything was good too, even though I've got another follow-up next week. And she was like, it looks really great. And I was like, it really does. I have a tiny little bit, like this tiny little spot like on the right side of where the tube goes in, that's kind of red. It's just a little irritated. And so like I'm super gentle when I clean it because I clean it twice a day. And so I was telling her all about that, and told her about having problems with my big toes sometimes, and so we talked about that. And we talked about all the things. It was super awesome. There's several things that she's gonna keep track of and watch. So like I have to have my thyroid re-sonogrammed next year, like January, February. And then after the thyroid sonogram, then I'm gonna have to have another CT of my lungs because of the nodules and everything, but I don't think that one has to be redone until May. And because of the HRT that I'm on after the hysterectomy, I've got to have breast exams done every year. I'm not in the age category to have mammograms done yet, but like regular breast exams, which I have once a year, and so we'll do that in May. And like I really liked her. She was super sweet and she was so thoughtful, and I didn't get any of the bullshit, you know, oh, drink more water and rest, and oh, maybe you're depressed and let's, you know, just put you on antidepressants. And she was like, it's so awful. So she was offended on my behalf, which was very sweet. So now anytime I've got a problem, I can see her, or I can see any of the PAs, which is great. And she goes, it looks like you've been poked and prodded quite enough. She's like, we're not even running blood work or anything like that. She's like, especially with how much you just had done in the hospital a couple weeks ago. And I said, yeah, it was a lot of blood work. And so she was like, you know, if you need anything, call me. If you need anything, email me. She asked for a couple records from cardiology and neuro-ophthalmology because they're at a different health system. And it's weird, like some stuff gets scanned in and like everybody can see it, and then other stuff, people scan it in and like nobody can see it. So anyways, so they're gonna send, they're gonna fax stuff over. The other update that I have is I'm having a complication from my left eye surgery. I don't know how much you guys are gonna be able to see. Okay, so my left eye healed differently than my right eye. So there's my right eye, blinky, blinky, blinky. And you can see my graft in the corner towards that side. And my eyes feel wet now, which is like super amazing. And so this one healed super great. I've got no trouble. This one, like you can see that it's still pinched on this side. Right now it feels raw and irritated. And see how it's like super bloodshot? It's really annoying. Like it feels, so anyway, so I went to my neuro-ophthalmologist. They worked me in an appointment this week. And he was like, well, what's going on? You know, everything was good. And I was like, yeah, but I said, this one never let go like my right eye did. And I said, it feels raw and irritated all the time. And it feels like I have something in it. Like on the bottom, like towards the outside. Like especially if I look around, it literally feels like I have something like jabbing me in the eyeball, like over and over and over again. And he was like, well, you know what it sounds like, right? And I said, yeah, it sounds like I'm having suture problems. And this was the only procedures that I didn't have suture problems with, and so now it looks like I'm having suture problems. And this eye was done like the 2nd of October, so I'm already almost 5 weeks post, but we still think that that's the problem. So I have to go back on my Tobradex. It's an antibiotic ointment, And so I have to do it twice a day, and I'm gonna do it for 2 weeks. And then I go back in to see him again, and then he'll take a look and see if we may have to have another procedure to go in and like get the sutures out, like they're not letting go, but he couldn't see them. I can't either. So we're gonna try this and see what happens and then go from there. The last thing I want is to have another procedure done, but my eye is so irritated. Like, I would do just about anything right now so it's not irritated. So we'll see. And one more thing about my primary, so I couldn't let the other one go without saying something. So I sent a message today, and I was like, you know, just to let you know, my health has gotten very complicated over the past 2 years. And so, you know, I've made the decision to switch my primary care to my other health system. And, you know, hopefully they can do a better job. Hopefully they can do a better job maintaining my health and blah blah blah. Like, I had to jab him just a little bit. It really delighted me. So that's it. I'll keep you posted. I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me and all the encouragement. Y'all are awesome. So I'll see y'all later. Bye.